Hi, this is Nicholas Burtner with Working with Nature. Today we get to go over one of my favorite topics in permaculture, and it's called connections. It's how to really start thinking about how to sustain and live in a sustainable, regenerative way. So last episode we left off with a closed loop system and we kind of touched on connections, but we're going to get into a couple examples today. So when we design a permaculture system, we want to look at we want to analyze every element that's in the system. Okay, so let's go over a couple of examples. One example that's often used, that we use almost all the time in a permaculture design course, is one of the willing workers in permaculture, which is a chicken. Chickens are fantastic. So a chicken has needs, right? It needs water, it needs food, it needs shelter, it needs grit, it needs other chickens. Chickens need companionship. It needs dust so it can get rid of mites. That's how it bathes, is through dust. It has needs. It also has outputs or products. So one of its outputs, obviously we know eggs. Chicken creates eggs. Chickens create meat. Right? Chickens create a gas. They create methane. They will create heat. One of the products is feathers, manure. It's a really high quality manure too. Fantastic manure, chicken manure. They also provide entertainment. I tell you, there's almost nothing better than watching chickens be silly. So that's some of the inputs and the outputs of one element. All right. If we look at other elements, they have similar inputs and outputs. Let's go ahead and analyze how we're going to get some of those inputs in, and let's analyze some of the outputs, where they're going to go. So that's starting to really like turn it on and turn the thinking into something that's very beneficial for a regenerative system and for mankind. So let's look at water. How is a chicken going to get water in our system when we put a chicken in a coop or in a chicken tractor, which is a mobile chicken coop? We can put a rain barrel right on the side of a chicken coop, and we can put shingles or metal roofing and guttering and bring in water, capture it from the rain and put it right in a tank right there. But it might not always rain. If we are talking about a landscape with slope, we may provide gravity irrigation for the whole landscape when we did water harvesting techniques called earthworks at the establishment of a system. That might be our next episode, actually, is a brief introduction into earthworks. So we can gather water both through ponds, gravity irrigation through ponds, or we can do it through rainwater. Either way, how are they going to get food? In all honesty, when you start a permaculture system, you are probably going to need to spend some money and bring in items that the system isn't creating yet. So if I don't have material on hand that feeds the chickens or feeds an animal or does whatever, I'm going to need to buy it. And that's okay, because if you remember last episode, a sustainable system is a system that produces more energy than it consumes over its lifetime. So if you have to, at establishment, provide energy or provide financial means to it, that's okay. Just know you're investing in a lifetime process that's going to will gain you yields over many, many years. Food forest, for example, is perpetual. It will continue to grow after some good maintenance over a few years. So we may not have the food for a chicken, so we will go out and buy it, but eventually we can grow the food. We will grow other plants that attract insects. So the chickens themselves can be moved with a mobile chicken coop into garden areas or into crop areas that go through and eliminate the pests. Right, so one of their functions is how they're going to get food is by going into an area that might be infested with pests, and that will solve a problem there. So their natural function to eat solves problems for pests. And they also will manure right in the same area and provide nutrition for those plants. Wow. So There's other ways to get food as well, compost piles and things like this. Needs grit. So if you have a rock on your piece of property or nearby, you get a hammer, get a sledgehammer, start pounding it away, and it will provide enough grit. You can put it in a little bowl. Chickens need grit to help them digest. They don't have a digestive tract or the same type of enzymes that we do to digest their food, so they eat little pebbles. They need other chickens. We may need to supply those chickens, but chickens love to be around each other. Two roosters aren't always the best. So it's usually the poor rooster has about 20 female chickens, and if you get to a flock that's probably about 30, what'll happen is the lead female rooster will split the flock in two, and she will be, the lead female hen, lead female chicken will split the flock in two, and she will be the lead rooster over there. So they need other chickens, and they produce their own chickens, so they get other chickens from themselves. It's another amazing thing about a chicken. Let's look at some of the outputs. So eggs is an obvious output. So if we have a bunch of hens, they're laying chickens usually twice a day in a warm season. If it's cold or if it's really rainy, they'll conserve that energy a lot of the times and not lay eggs. And we use eggs to eat. We'll crush up the shells and use it in compost. So how are we using their waste product? Everything is used. Matter of fact, let's tangent for a second and think about what we're doing. We're creating something called biomimicry in permaculture, and that is just, we are mimicking what natural systems do. So a natural system will never waste anything, ever. Nature has zero waste, no waste. No waste closed loop systems are how they were designed to begin with. We have, not used nature as a template for design, and thus we are having major issues. So when we have a design system that mimics nature, it never wastes. It never wastes. So those eggshells that we think we're going to waste away, we're going to put them in our compost bin. Matter of fact, some people might not agree with it, but I tell you what, if it's in nature, a chicken will eat some of its own eggshell to regain calcium and nutrition from that eggshell. In the middle of that last take, it started getting really dark, so I wanted to just step inside and continue it. So sorry about the transition of video. So I think we left off on meat. Another product of a chicken is meat. So obviously we eat the chicken, but there are parts of the chicken that we don't eat, like the bones. So we can actually put those bones into a compost heap, and the microbes will eat that and redistribute it through the compost heap to make it available for the plants later. And then even after that part, we can take that bone and burn it down, and we can do things like add that to a biofertilizer, which will mix with compost later, that we can spray on crops. So it literally has no waste. So the products, we have meat, we have eggs. Another product of a chicken is heat. So like for instance the old Swiss from Switzerland, they would create houses on top of barns. So they would put them on top of barns, and what they would do is since hot air rises, the heat from the animals would go up through the cracks of the wood planks that were in the floor of the house, and they would use that for heat in the winter. That's pretty darn impressive. So that's, again, no waste. Even the energy of heat coming from a chicken or an animal can be utilized. Another product of a chicken is its manure. So we've already kind of discussed it, but this is really high quality manure. You can go and put chickens, you can move them through your garden beds, through your fields of crops. You can put, say you had a paddock or a field on your property, and you mow it. You mow that, and then you take that, which is now mulch basically, which can be used for other areas. There's no waste on that ever. It can be composted. But we could take it and put it in the bedding of a chicken coop, or even if we're moving it, we could put it under the underneath the mobile chicken tractor, and it will just gather manure, and then we can take that and compost it, and then we can take that compost and put it on garden beds, right? So there's never any waste. That is putting connections together. That is analyzing an element that is in your system, and what are its needs, what are its outputs, what other elements feed its needs, and what other elements need its outputs. That's how nature was designed. That is how we are designing our lifestyles in this system. It is truly amazing. It's very powerful. Once we click it on, once we turn this way of thinking on by connecting elements in our lives together, things will become much more sustainable, even regenerative. It's amazing. I'll go ahead and give you another example, a quick example of an element in a permaculture system that's really cool, and I'll explain it for a second because a lot of people might not know what it is, but how it needs inputs and its outputs. So I'm going to take this straw and I'm going to bend it like this. So if we just take this and we think of a stove, right? So here's the chimney of a stove, and here's the horizontal or the bottom end. So this needs to be twice as big as this. And oftentimes I like to put a J on it like this, okay? So then we can feed, and what needs to happen, this is a chimney. It could be made out of bricks, it could be made out of cob or adobe. It could be made out of chimney that you buy from a box store like Home Depot. It doesn't matter how it's made really. It just needs to be insulated. Make sure it's insulated. And typically, if you just put adobe or cob around it and put a plaster over it, that you get all that material, maybe except for the lye, right on property, right there. The lime, I'm sorry, the lime, not the lye. So how this functions is we'll put woody material here, trash material. So that's its fuel, is the trash woody material that's already on the ground, or pine cones, or bamboo that's in your permaculture design system. Whatever planty or woody material, it could be paper as well. Matter of fact, I've used paper on these a lot that ignite the fire. So we put the fire in the fuel in this chamber, and we light it, and we'll exhale sharply, and air goes in here, and it will start sucking up through this chimney, and it makes a sound almost like a rocket. So it's very, very, very efficient. It's like 96% efficient, so it's only 4% dirty. It burns extremely efficiently, and it gets really, really hot. Exceedingly hot. So some of its inputs, like you said, how to build the materials, you can get them right there from your ground. You can build it out of dirt. If you have bricks on site, if you have rocks on site, you can build it at just straight up out of dirt. Pretty amazing. Another of its needs is the fuel. So if you have a food forest in your system, or even if you have a natural forest somewhere around, you go gather the little sticks up in the area next to it, you keep them dry, and then you have fuel all the time. Now, what about some of its outputs? Well, you can cook with this, but you can't cook right on top of it. So a solution that I've came up with is you can get a griddle, an iron griddle, and put it on top of this. And when you light it right above where the fire's coming out, it's going to be super hot, maybe up to 1600 degrees. It wouldn't be ideal to cook anything on. Maybe boil water very quickly. Not a bad idea at all. So you can boil water right on top, but as the griddle's on it, heat dissipates. So you slide the pan over, and it's much less in degrees. So we can cook eggs. We can cook whatever we need. You can make a kitchen with 2 of these and have the griddle go on top of both of them, and the whole surface, you can either cook on the whole surface, or you can cook in pots and pans as well. So you can cook with a rocket stove that you built out of dirt, and you get the fuel from small woody material that burns 96% efficiently. Now, what about the waste product from that? It has ash, right? a lot of times we put a hole on this side so we can reach in and get the material out, or the ash out. If it's softwood, we would take that ash and we would add it to a compost pile. Compost piles, I tell you, we're going to have a whole video on compost piles, but compost it's the way to go. It's the third trophic level of energy and really taking it up. I don't want to turn the series into compost. So we could take the softwood, put it in the compost pile. If it's hardwood, if it's a hardwood like oak, we could then take it and we can make soap out of it. More precisely, we'll go around and we'll turn this hardwood ash into lye, and from lye we'll render it with different fats. We'll turn it into soap. I mean, wow, there's no waste in here. We create it from the ground. We use it to efficiently heat things or efficiently cook things. We could heat water up with this. That'll heat showers. We could heat our homes with this if you needed to, if your home wasn't designed towards the sun. And then its waste product creates nutrition or creates a way to clean ourselves. It's truly amazing. So we talked about a chicken. We talked about a rocket stove. Every element we want to think about what are its inputs and what are its outputs. That's connections. We got a couple more heading up on this series of permaculture for beginners, and I just wanted to have some talks with you guys so we can get it a little bit widespread quickly about what permaculture is. Just so you guys know, in the works, we got a lot of video coming in the works, both as a collaboration with a good friend of mine, and also when we're out on doing consultations or we're out on different sites, we're going to be bringing you permaculture tips. We just did one over rainwater harvesting and a first flush system, but we got a ton more of tips. We'll never be without material there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the mass spreaducation of permaculture and just becoming part of your everyday thinking on how we can help each other and help humanity. So you guys rock. I look forward to all of these videos. Leave a comment. Let me know what you're interested in learning. If you have something specific, we'll make a video out of it. If you just want to say, hey, we love what you're doing, I get tons of private messages like that. Well, I love what you're doing too, man. So love you guys. You're awesome, and I'll talk with you later.